everybody. Wait a minute, y'all. Y'all, can y'all take a good look at Victor? What's that on your hat, Victor? Go Seahawks!
Go Seahawks! Yes, they won.
Yes,
Look
you
at the Super
did.
Bowl.
You are going to the Super Bowl against the New England Patriots, and y'all, I know I'm a Saints fan. I miss my Saints being there, but I tell you what, I was so excited to know that Victor's team is going to the Super Bowl. I'll be watching for you, Victor.
Awesome. Welcome to another episode of Running Your Best Life. And I am Victor Vizcaino. I'm the host and my co-host Adele. Hi, Adele, again.
Hello, everybody. Hello, hello.
So why don't you start us off by telling me what are we talking about?
Okay, it's my turn. Not only could I tell Victor, go Seahawks, but we are actually going to talk about something, Victor's book. And we gave you a little teaser last week, but we are going to talk about rhythm running, which talks about cadence, using your cadence counting in your running. And also, he introduces you to the cadence counting in your other sports, such as cycling and swimming. But we're going to try to focus a little bit more on the running part today, introduce some concepts to you. But the biggest thing about all this is that this is Victor's book, y'all. This is Victor's book, and I tell you what, it's an easy read if you're a beginner runner. It's a very logical follow up to any training that you may have done if you're an experienced runner and you investigated anything to help you run your times to a certain level. But y'all, this is exciting stuff. It's a great, great book. Rhythm Running. You can get it on Amazon. Go on. I think Victor's going to give us the link after. I'm going to say that right now because he put it on yet last week too. But let's get started, Victor. Tell us why rhythm running. Where did all that come from?
Absolutely. And let me just start that people can get it right now for 99 cents. So that's a
Okay.
big deal. So rush hour, that's not going to be the price forever.
Yeah.
So make sure you get your book now. That being said, this was inspired from me counting my cadence when I read that most elite runners were running at 190 cadence, the Kenyans. And I discovered that I was running like around 160, 158, and right around that range is like, oh, wow, what would happen if I get it to a higher level? And that's when I started counting my cadence to get it closer and closer to that. And in the process of doing that, I discovered many, many things about becoming more efficient because I was doing triathlons at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, everybody has cadence in different areas. When you're doing the bike, there's certain cadence that is ideal. When you're doing swimming, there's another ideal cadence. And then for running, there's also an ideal cadence range around. Everybody's
Mm-hmm.
different depending on their height. Same thing with the swimming.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
one of the things that stuck with me the most is when I was learning swimming, and I heard that if all I did was count my strokes per
Mm-hmm.
minute every 25 yards, that
Mm-hmm.
if I did that alone, I would improve my swim
Mm-hmm.
time on a triathlon.
Mm-hmm.
And I started thinking, well, why is that? Because as you're counting, you are really feeling what makes you more efficient. Because then
Mm-hmm.
kind of the opposite of running, when swimming, you want to take the least amount of strokes.
Right. 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 Because you want to have that glide built into your strokes as you pull and push. Right.
Right. So that the least amount of strokes, it's an indication of efficiency. And when you start to do higher, your efficiency is a little bit less,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can start to spot what is going on. So I thought, what if I do that with my running? Because I've been trying to qualify for Boston for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
I had felt like I tried a lot of things, and I was plateauing. I wasn't getting anywhere, and that's one of the things that I changed, and that made the
Okay.
most difference was to raise my number of steps per minute.
Okay. Okay. And y'all, basically that's the definition of cadence. And what you're doing is you're counting your number of steps per minute. If you want to think of it that way, that's a very easy explanation of cadence. And when Victor uses the terms 180 or 190, that's the foot strike per minute, right? Foot
That's
so
correct.
80 or 90 per foot gives you that 180 or 190. So that's what he means by cadence and counting your cadence. And I'll let him continue a little bit more about how he achieved some improvement and better efficiency to qualify for that Boston Marathon several years ago.
Yes, and I'm glad you clarified that because that was my main goal. I want to qualify
Hmm.
for Boston. I want to get faster, and I felt like I didn't need a whole lot, but it wasn't going to come from running, just running faster
Right,
and running
right.
more. It was going to be about being more efficient, about saving
Hmm.
energy.
Hmm.
And I got that from training for a triathlon because in the triathlon is more important because uh, it was specifically the Ironman, and I heard it many times. It's not going to be from you training harder; it's going to be you training smarter, and also the name of the game is economy.
Right,
How are you going to
right.
economize your energy to finish strong? And that's what I wanted for my running. And so I started to focus on economy. And one of the biggest things of me being economical in my energy was to improve the number of steps per minute that I was doing.
Okay.
That came with a lot of focus. So I started to just count them. And when I go on the treadmill, I would count every 15 minutes. Mm,
Okay.
I learned the hard way some of the things because I started to just want to really change my stride too drastically, because if you change it too drastically, you start to get hurt because it
Right,
changes your
right,
mechanics too
right,
fast. So if
right.
anybody's out there and wants to improve the cadence, and I specify this in my book, because
Hmm.
in my book I take them gradually to how, if your steps are way off of where they should be, then it gives you clear exercises to start to
Right,
improve your
right,
cadence
right.
gradually rather than just if you're at 155 and want to go to 180, you're going to experience some injuries very possibly.
And that's a great point, and we'll go a little bit further on that, and because there's three things I want you to take from what Victor just said. He realized he had to be more economical in his steps, but also leading to efficiency in his body motion and body mechanics also allowed him to take more efficient strides. And when he was counting, he's counting so many per foot, looking at maybe some minutes as he was learning how to develop his particular unique set of cadence numbers and what he wanted to try to achieve. But economy, efficiency, and your body mechanics are going to change. So going too quickly, you're going to encourage an injury to happen and a setback. Being economical, efficient, and patient and smart is going to get you where you need to be as you improve on what your programming is. Where you're going to start with your cadence, how you're going to be more efficient, and use that economy of steps, time, and focus.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thanks, you said that eloquently, Adele.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. This little Southern girl.
Awesome. And the other parts I have in the book are the spiritual parts,
Yes,
uh,
yes.
meditation, the rhythm that you start to learn to do that when you're actually doing it consciously, because that's the other part of this book. It's
Mm-hmm.
being very, very present with your counting, using it as a sort of a meditation, and even I'm going to say for me, it's even a spiritual experience.
Yes,
Mm,
yes. I have to totally agree with you, and I'd like you to expound on that a little bit. And then I have a couple of comments to follow up with you if you don't mind.
absolutely. So, having the practice of counting is to me it was a matter of focusing, being present in the
Mm-hmm.
exact moment, because if I am counting and I can be present, then I can start to focus on every time I count. Like I would like to count with 1 foot. So let's say
Okay.
my left foot is landing.
Okay.
You can also not just keep the count, but also where is my foot landing? Is it landing where I want it to land? Is it
Mm,
landing in the center of gravity?
right.
Um, all things that I'm noticing as well. Mm, my vertical
Okay.
isolation is
Yeah.
just up and down.
Right.
your head is moving up and down.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
what I used that when I was running, I would look at my shadow and to see how much vertical isolation, and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
higher the higher the steps per minute, the less of this was going on. And I
Right.
to focus on that part because now a lot of things are working in conjunction. I'm landing where I'm supposed to land in my center of gravity. I'm minimizing the vertical isolation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also learning to be focused and aware of what I'm doing, being present in the moment.
I think one of the biggest things, and actually Victor uses this term in his book, when he showed you the pen going up and down, up and down, up and down. And then there's a smoothness when you start to develop that kind of meditative state almost. Your body's not bouncing as much and you almost feel like a glide. And that's where you want to feel because your body now is present in its motion, but your mind is released. It's basically liberating is a word that Victor used in his book, and almost he called it a meditative state because your presence and your focus is on your cadence and on your counting. It actually releases the stress from your body to be a little bit more free in its motion and its mechanics, as Victor was just saying, that vertical alignment, but also your mind has some freedom as well. You're not thinking about, oh, that hurts on the right foot when I plant it. But my back is starting to tighten up. My shoulders are slouching. You're not focusing on any of that discomfort or, oh, I'm only at mile 12 and I've got 14 more to go. Your mind is free and easy and fairly peaceful because it's focused on something other than what the body mechanics are doing, not on the fatigue, not on the impact. Your body's a lot more fluid and you're gliding. It's a sense of freedom in the glide and not the impact like this, one on top of the other. And I think that's what Victor is describing to y'all right now, that it's a meditative kind of feeling and it lets the spirit guide you. How about that?
That is, yeah, you put it correct. It is so correct because I think you said the release of the stress. I
Hmm.
think also the release of those happy chemicals. I felt
Right,
that were much more powerful when I did that because I was so focused that
right.
I would start to feel that euphoric feeling or the
Hmm.
runner's high.
Hmm.
And,
And
and
that
when
runner's high is real. It's very real, right?
That's right. It is real because there's actually real chemicals that happen that
Hmm.
your brain releases. And
Yes.
I think the more you learn to focus, the more frequent you're going to experience that and the longer
Hmm.
you're going to go. And when do things do get hard, like you were talking about that, you were
Hmm.
saying your focus is on the numbers and not on the pain.
Hmm.
I noticed a big difference when running up a hill, and I
Hmm.
know from previous experience, okay, I can approximate how many steps I'm going to take me to the top of that hill, and I'm guessing it's about 200 revolutions. Then it's easier for the body to be focused on that count of 200 rather than
Yes.
I'm running out of steam, I'm running out of steam, it hurts. Mm, It is very powerful.
I want to go downhill.
I want to
Well,
stop.
I think one of the biggest things that I picked up from looking at these first couple of chapters in the book is it's a simplicity about your method as well, because there's different ways to adapt the method part of the cadence counting to what you're actually trying to accomplish or what you're doing at the moment in that particular running event compared to overthinking it, right?
Right.
The simplicity of the method can change, can change, but the simplicity of the idea of counting a cadence is really just basically spot on. It's a very, very efficient way to handle these different goals that you want to have and to let the body release the stress and look at going up that hill. Oh man, I don't want to go up that hill. I'm going to walk up that incline. I'm going to walk over that overpass. I'm going to turn around and go down and just say that's it for the day. We don't want to do that. We want to go up that hill and we're going to go up that hill as efficiently and as easy as possible because 200 steps then becomes 175, then it becomes 150, then all of a sudden you're down under 100, and that release of this stress of mental achievement is now this excitement of I've done it, right? I mean,
Yes,
it,
absolutely.
and it only, might only be a few minutes that this transformation happens, but the focus on your cadence is allowing the rest of your body and your mind to move freely in that direction.
Yeah. And to be more, I think to be more accurate at that, the pace that you need to be,
Mm-hmm.
and everything that falls right into it, it's so much more when you consciously count it. Because there's a lot of people that at first I'll ask, do you know where your cadence is? And half of the time, or I would say more like 80% of the time, I don't know, but I can look it up on my watch.
Which
And
we all do at the end of a workout. How fast did I really go that mile?
yeah, and where were my cadence? Where was my heart rate? But when you're
Right.
actually counting, a lot of those things are being registered very consciously on your own.
Hmm.
I can guess with great accuracy about what pace am I doing based on how accurate my count has been and
Right.
what that rhythm seems like. If you're
Right.
used to running at a 7.5 minute mile, and you kind of know what rhythm that
Right.
feels like,
Right.
and because you've been paying attention, and when you are at a different pace, 9 minute mile feels different because of the same thing. What kind of rhythm? Because one thing I want to make clear is that I tried to do the same cadence at 7.5 minute miles than
Hmm.
I have at 9 minute mile.
Right. Right. Right.
The difference is going to be how long my stride is, which changes the rhythm.
Hmm.
And that's where you feel that rhythm of running being different. And that's
Okay.
where you can start to feel what a 9 minute mile feels like, because that rhythm's going to be different because your
Okay.
stride's going to be higher, even though um, you're using the same distance, but you feel in your body that you are striding longer if you're running faster, and
Mhm.
you're taking shorter steps if you're going slower.
So my question, and just to clarify for our listeners today, if you have a feeling of what you're accomplishing on your watch, and it's a 7.5 minute pace, all of a sudden you start feeling exhausted. You're at mile 10 of a half marathon and you're exhausted. I mean, so much so that your body is reacting that you don't have anything left in the tank. But if you use a different method like cadence counting, and you've trained using that, and all of a sudden you find the comfort of a 7 minute 7:45 mile that gets you consistently on that pace. Guess what happens when you hit mile 10? You're not suffering with the fatigue, and you're not suffering with the body aches and the pain and the mental exhaustion that you're basically hitting that mental and physical wall, and you just go on the side and you stop. So there's some different points that Victor just made. It's not just striding and counting, it's allowing the body to move along with what you're mentally preparing it to do and mentally actively doing with it as well. If you following what I'm saying, right? So you
Yeah.
have to understand not just a time on a clock and saying, oh, I did 90 steps a minute. But if you look at the freedom and the efficiency of your body as
Oops, I
you've
think
used
you
that
broke.
cadence method, that's where you're going to find the success. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So I
I
have
think
my question. Let me ask a question real quick. So if I'm going to say I'm going to go out and run an 8 minute pace for the 6 miles of my 10K. I'm going to use a little warm up, to get through the crowd. And that's all I'm doing. Don't you think I'm going to be a little tired when I hit mile 5? When I'm excited, but my body's reacting to the fatigue factor? Because I've pushed to say, oh, here comes the mile marker. I got to make sure I did it in 8 minutes. Then I'm stressful, right? I'm stressed out, and my body's
no,
reacting to it.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I have some of the formulas that I
Oh, good.
use for somebody who's training for a marathon, for example,
Okay, good.
that they can use. I love the Yaso 800s. For anybody who's not
Yes.
familiar with the Yaso
Right.
800s, that means that um, whatever you run an 800-meter, if you can do it 10 times in those minutes, they'll equal in hours. Let me explain.
Okay.
If you're doing
Okay.
it in 4 minutes, it's going to equal to a 4 hour marathon.
Right.
If you're
Okay.
doing it at 3:45, 3 minutes, 45 seconds, then you're going to have a 3 hour, 45 minute marathon. But that is
Okay.
if you can hold to do 10 800s back to back at that speed.
At that speed.
That
Okay.
gives the runner is like, okay, then this is realistic for me. So the thing is, you do have to go out there, count your cadence, start to what feels reasonable,
Mm-hmm.
and start to formulate where you be, where am I in a, if I want to go do a 4 hour marathon, for example, is that
Okay.
possible for me? Then you can put these times to the test and see if you're close. If you're too far, then
Okay.
maybe you want to get closer to that 800. If you're doing it in 6 minutes, then obviously that's more of a 6 hour marathoner.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit
That's
more.
what's reasonable for you to shoot at.
Right, right. Well, and I think too that we have a lot of different ability levels and experience levels in our listening group. And for those of you that are really just, when I say starting out, that you have your first goal to do a 2 mile race with your family at church or a holiday or a 5K for the first time, that you're celebrating maybe a landmark age, it's say turning 40. I'm gonna go do a 5K with all my 40-year-old girlfriends or family members. The key is that you don't want to overthink it and you don't want to do too much because you won't make it to your race day. But what you're looking at with Victor, if you're going to look at a plan, a training plan, and you want to incorporate learning how to use your cadence counting, and you do get on a track and you try to just kind of assess, what do I have really in me? That's a great formula to use maybe once a week, once every couple of weeks, and say, how am I building up my stamina? How am I building up my endurance to make it through 5K without a lot of stopping time, right? But also too, it's an encouraging factor as well. When you see the times for a distance drop because you've trained efficiently and very intelligently, maybe the week or 2 weeks before, that's excitement to keep going, y'all. That's where the intangibles come in, not the running, but the excitement in your heart, the spirit that you have. I can do this, but also that you've used your good mental energy to do it very, very smart and efficient. So that's key. And for anybody out there who's doing a 4 hour marathon or three and a half hour marathon, I think Victor has to run about a 3:35 to qualify for Boston in this decade of his life. But also too, he knows what he has to do to to be able to run a 26.2 mile distance underneath 3:35, so he has some time to play with. So if you're doing something that's a 5 or 6 minutes on those 400s, it's okay. That's your unique time. Just remember that. We're using anything from an experienced seasoned marathon runner to our beginners. So remember, it's all about where you are. Assess where you are when you start to use some of these training tips and training tools that we're offering to y'all so you can achieve your goal. Okay.
Yes, yeah, that is absolutely right. That's one formula for the beginner, is to do the short
Mhm,
800 distance to see what is a good thing to shoot for. Then the
mhm.
next one would be if they're doing like a 16-week marathon training plan,
Okay.
then
Okay.
about 8 weeks out, they can do a half marathon, because that's going to give you even more accurate information. And
Right.
that formula is only double your half marathon time, add 10 minutes, and that's what's very reasonable for you to expect at the full marathon if you follow
Okay.
the whole 16-week training plan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's a great point because people get a little discouraged when they think, "Oh, I've got another 13 to go when on my race day." But if you're training smart and you're watching the other parts of your training, which is your nutrition, hydration, your rest, how your lifestyle is changing through your training, then you're putting it all together. Then the goal is very attainable, very, very attainable. And I think what Victor has done, and we've mentioned this to each other prior to starting our recording, is unbeknownst to him when he had the bike accident back in August, getting ready for a half Ironman in September. He had like about 8 weeks maybe. Um, he changed a few things without realizing that what that did for him to recover from that injury and be able to really participate in his race, which he did very, very well in. The things he changed in nutrition and rest and hydration to heal, actually gave him a better opportunity to be successful in that half Ironman, and he's maintained some of those principles through the last 5 or 6 months to get where he is now, that is allowing him to have a lofty goal to possibly achieve for qualify for Boston again. So remember, y'all, stay consistent as well too. And any new tips you need, or any new tools that we can help you find, all you have to do is send us a message. I did want Victor to mention one or two other things on the cadence counting. I know he had a couple other points too, but you got to remember that let's recap just a little bit, Victor, if you don't mind. We've looked at the intangible part of the cadence counting, which gives you that mental clarity, that mental focus, the presence of what you're doing, but it also releases some of the stress of the pain or the discomfort the body might experience, because you're actually more fluid and more efficient in your body mechanics. So we've touched on those points. We've touched on some of the simple methods that you can use to start learning the cadence in the book. This is all from the book, y'all. This is all this information is in the book. But the exercises that you have at the end of each chapter with the points that you've made through the chapter, describe those a little bit for me, because the very first one's a very simple beginning tool. And then as you go along, how do you develop those exercises to help our readers now and our listeners achieve the goal that they want to achieve from the information from that chapter?
Absolutely. So it's just going to give you exercise for how to implement the increasing those miles. And I'm trying to get to one of
Okay.
the uh, exercises.
Yeah. And the very first one, y'all, is one to help you learn how to assess yourself, but also to learn a little bit each step of the way on how to develop a unique cadence for you with some of the guidelines that Victor has given you.
Yes. So it just gives you specific on how to get this done. And uh, if you get the book and you get to the end of the
Mhm.
chapter, each chapter is going to tell you what exercise to do for the goal that you're trying to do.
Okay.
And for example, where here's where it says that if you're aiming for 170 to 180 or 190 steps per minute, that really matters in practice, and it
Okay.
gives you the reason why it matters and how to achieve that in a gradual way. And some of the
Okay.
things to pay attention. For example, here's one of the chapter one at the end of the book. It says, pay attention to your natural cadence without judging. It is a good or bad. Most begin runners fall between 150 and 165 steps per minute. If you're in this
Okay.
range, you have significant room for improvement, which means significant potential for getting faster and more efficient. Notice how the act of counting affects your awareness. You might suddenly feel your breathing patterns, your swings, and the sound of your footfalls. So it gets very specific in what things to pay attention, how to get it done, and it does it in a way that's going to prevent you from getting injured, which
Right.
is one
Right.
of my main goals. Because let's face it, the one thing that's going to set you back, and what sets most of my
Mhm.
clients back, is having an injury.
Right.
And what I mean is,
Right.
when they come to me, is they come with the reason they had stopped running is because they had a knee injury
Mhm.
or other things, and now they're afraid to start running again because they don't want to get hurt again.
Okay.
And a
Right.
lot of that is because they've been doing things the wrong way. Counting your cadence just gives you more of that present to
Mhm.
run in a run in the way the body was meant to run.
Right.
And,
Right.
when you do that, not only do you prevent the injuries, but a lot of the old injuries start to get even better. Because when I started running, I had a lot of knee problems. And
Mm.
honestly, today I feel like my knees are at their healthiest. And
Good.
that is just,
Good.
it's not what I was told, but I started running in the 2004, not to date myself. But back then, everybody that I was surrounded, that I told I was starting to run marathons, oh, you're going to destroy your knees. That was the one thing they always said is, and
Yes.
Actually, oh, is that true? Yeah, because you're gonna wear them out. You're gonna wear your thing, and it's like that has not been true for me.
Right. And I never did have any knee injuries either. And I'll tell you the only, and, to be very honest, I did have a torn meniscus in the right knee. I had, it had nothing to do with an injury from running. I was caring for my mom at the time before she passed away, and there were a lot of different body movements that I had caring for her, and I would tweak the knee. I was actually still playing a lot of competitive tennis. I did actually put the racket up. So if I had been still playing tennis, I would have known that the meniscus was torn. It did not bother me running. I could run all day, but I had trouble pressing the accelerator in the car because it was the outer part of my right knee and that little bit of pressure. I said, "Oh man, I wanted to run another marathon," and that's when we found that the torn meniscus needed to be attended to and repaired. And I was back in the pool and back on the street walking and back running a lot more miles as soon as I could. So that was paying attention to my body. But the key is, if you really do want to be successful in your running life, look at everything else that's going on too. Because if you find that sense of peace that we're promoting here by helping you take away some of this mental stress by counting cadence and really enjoying the run, not only will your running life be really satisfying, but and Victor really he notes this in his book. All of these concepts can really be transferred into your everyday life, your professional and personal life. Stress at work, I know how to deal with it. You're going to release some of it. Personal issues at home that are really joyful and excited, your body's going to react to that because it feels good at what you're accomplishing and what you're learning. So it transcends not just your fitness and running life, so to speak, or your swimming or cycling or training life in any way. But the key is that you got to let these concepts flow through you into your everyday life because you've altered your lifestyle, you've altered your schedules, you've altered your connections with your family and friends because you're training for something that you want. But the peace and the satisfaction and the success of that transcends to those relationships as well. And
Yes.
that's a key point Victor has made in the book for all of us to share.
I'm glad you said that, Adele.
Mm,
That is so important because one of the key benefits that I want to mention that's also mentioned on the book
mhm,
is how your creative juices really
mm,
get sparked up when you practice this. And I think it's the part that mimics the meditation um,
right.
form of running. And
Mhm.
what I've noticed, and this has been very clear for me, is that if the more I focus on the counting, and then when I stop counting, when I go back to and think about certain problems, I come up with some really cool solutions, very
Yes.
creative that never there before. Um,
Yes.
so
Yes.
yes, you're right. Or even like you don't have to count cadence every single time that you run, but if you say I'm going to count my cadence for half of the run, and then I'm going to think of bring about a problem that I was thinking about before I went on the run, you'll be surprised at the solutions that come up. And it's
Yes.
not only, I think, and that is just me hypothesizing on why that happens. And I think it's because you were so focused that then when you stop doing that focus, all of a sudden all these um, pathways open up in your
Right.
brain,
Right.
and
Right. Yes.
add the
Yes.
happy chemicals to it, and it just takes us to like, oh my gosh, I coming up with a lot of solutions and a lot of creative things, and they
Right.
weren't there before, and now they are. And of course, I don't know I'm just, and that's why I said hypothesis because I don't know exactly what happens in the brain, but it's pretty
Right.
magical.
Well, I think one of the things we've all heard about the dopamine effect. When you feel really good, you get that excitement. And I mean, the heart, everything just is firing on all levels, the brain, the heart, the soul, everything is just so incredibly ignited, right? When you have that excitement, the creativity in the brain, and this is a scientific fact, we can do some research on it. I've lots of notes and things that I've read and done and studied over the years. But the key is that this is a very real physical reaction to what you're doing for yourself that is not just physical, but it's spiritual, it's emotional. The brain is just firing and everything else is going along with it because you're doing something really good for yourself. The other thing that that does for you, and I have written speeches while I'm swimming, running, or biking, and not, I'm not communicating with people at that time, obviously. I'm so present where my mind and heart is. I've written, the speeches and the prayers and the different things I did during the course of planning for Callie's wedding, all those different little things that the mom, the bride does. I wrote those in my head, swimming miles and miles and miles because I was so engaged with nothing else to distract me. The same thing when you're running and you're running alone and you're figuring out something, that you're having some difficulty with. But if you're counting your cadence and you feel calm and you feel efficient, all of a sudden the brain starts operating at a very astute level of focus. And that resolution to that issue, good or bad, starts playing in your mind. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I've run 2 or 3 miles and now I know the solution to my problem, or I know how to talk to that person about something I'm concerned about, or I know how to share my feelings with the person that I've fallen in love with and how I can do that and not be nerdy.
Yes, absolutely. And so, just to prove your point, when did I think about writing this book? Well, I was running.
Yep. Yep.
And where all these
Exactly.
ideas of putting the book together, of putting all this stuff, and and then I already started thinking of the second book because I'm thinking of writing cadence counting for speed walkers because
Oh,
I
good
want
idea.
to.
Good idea.
Yes, because what I notice is there's a lot of people who walk a lot of part of the marathons,
Hmm. Hmm.
including myself. I've done that, and also there may be people who want to walk the whole marathon, especially in
Hmm.
an Ironman. There's been people who've
Right.
done better
Right.
times when they speed walk the marathon portion of
Right.
the Ironman, for example,
Right.
because they stay
Right.
steady at a certain speed.
Right.
And for that, I'll add some value right now, and that is 150 steps per minute is what's considered very efficient for speed walkers. And there's going to be a range
Good.
depending on your height and your stride level, of course. But that's going to be my second one because it's totally different, the form and everything when you're speed walking than
Right.
when
Well,
you're
and
running. Because
I
of
want,
course the biggest
yeah.
difference is you always have a foot and land, whereas when
Right.
you're running, you're on the air part of the
Hmm.
time. When you're speed walking, you always have one of the foot on the ground.
On the ground. And if we're talking about race walking, there's a specific race walk body mechanics you have to follow, especially if you're competing. But if you're a speed, and I say but intentionally, but if you're a walker, and let's call it a walker who's walking fast, let's say a speed walker, but there's not a consistent attention to detail because you're not going for any kind of prize or you're not running speed, race walking in the Olympics where you have to have that certain body motion. But if you are paying attention to this, and I'm going to use this next time I go out for a long walk and I want to hit that mile in a certain pace, I'm going to start to count my cadence a little bit differently when I'm walking. Um, and that was going to be a question I had for Victor at the end of our visit today was, can we address a run walk, race walk, speed walk type of cadence protocol for some of
Yeah,
our listeners, maybe sometime in the future? But now he wants to write another book about it, y'all. Maybe
yeah.
I'll get a chance to talk to him about it.
But for now, I think that this part where you become, if you are one of those who does both, you do
Hmm.
uh, run walk method, then definitely you want to use this book for the run portion
Right.
and my second book for the walk part. No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to wait till you get the walk book, but I would say when you walk, you want to
Hmm.
speed walk because
Right.
you still want to maintain a very
Right.
good cadence. It's just going to be a lot lower
Lower, right.
when you're walking, but you still you shouldn't be like, because people said, oh, I'm going to walk, and they almost come to a stop, and
Yeah.
that's not the
Yeah.
point. The point is
Yeah.
that you're getting a rest just from speed walking, and if you're
Right.
doing it for 20 seconds to a minute, you speed walk that minute. There's some people who do 30 30,
Right.
30
Right.
seconds of jogging, 30 seconds of walking.
Right.
And for them,
Right.
it's very efficient. But those 30 seconds of walking is speed walking.
Yeah,
It's
it's
not,
speed walking.
yeah,
Yeah.
because um, if you're on a race, most races, not all of them, they're going to have a cutoff time. So there's
Right.
a lot of my clients and a lot of people out there who, even though they're not concerned of getting a prize or not concerned of other things, they're still concerned of being cut off or not
Mhm.
making the cutoff time.
Right.
And
Right.
and and it feels better, and it's better for the heart to work a little bit hard than to be
Yeah.
completely recreational
Yeah.
walking.
Yeah, and y'all, let's go back to 2 weeks ago when I did the run walk method at the quarter marathon. The pattern I used was to run a minute, walk 30 seconds, and then as I felt that much, I felt so good in that last 4, 5 miles, 4, 5, and 6, because it's a 6.5 mile race, a quarter marathon. I was running another 15 or 20 seconds and walking the 30 seconds or 35 seconds. I was running more of the time because I felt so good. I'm like, oh, this is great, you know? But the key is that it was a consistent pattern. I was not counting cadence because I really wasn't as familiar with some of Victor's really good tips that particular day. We talked about a lot more sense. I was familiar with the very basics of it, but I did not use it. And I was successful at what I did. The key to that is now I have a goal for the Crescent City Classic, and now I can use that cadence training to improve my training as I've been doing. Now, yesterday was a very, very cold day here. I did eight and what I'll call 8 speed miles, interval miles, but on the elliptical with some ab crunches, on the side. But the biggest thing about doing that is the mental part. I'm going to start, be consistent. I'm looking at the strides on the machine that it's counting. So there was a little bit of a little bit more intention in that. And then the second 4 miles was definitely decreasing time per mile, which meant increasing the strides per mile. This was all done on the elliptical because of the weather out here was, freezing below 18 degrees in South Louisiana. Who knows that? But the key is that it was an intentional training moment for me. Today was a swim, and it was an intentional swim because I had the energy, but it wasn't as long a swim. It was 2,500 yards, but it was intentional in 100 free intervals and 50 free intervals because I limited my time to 1 hour, the warm up, the cool down, and everything else in between. So the key is that we can use these concepts in everything we do. I can't get on a bike now because it's just way too cold out here. But y'all use these tips in whatever you're going to do, and I felt so good after these moments that I came home and I'm like, I can conquer the world today.
Absolutely. That's amazing. I think you're going to do an amazing race on your next one where, when you put
I'm,
these
yeah.
tips in practice. And
Mhm.
for anybody out there, pick up the book right now. It's 99 cents,
Mm.
and you are going to be a lot more efficient. You're going to be faster on your next
Yeah.
race. You're going to be more creative. So you're going to come up with all those solutions to all of
Right.
your problems. I'm not guaranteeing that, but I am pretty sure I'm going to hear from you,
Right.
and I'll let you know when the hard copy comes. But from now, I'll
Yes,
put the
definitely.
show notes where to get, how to get the link to buy the book
Yes. Yes.
while it's on promotional for 99 cents.
Mhm.
It's going to change your life, and it's going to help my ratings
Help
to.
his ratings too, y'all. Best-selling author.
Awesome. Well, I could talk about this book and about running forever, but time is short. I gotta go
Yes.
buy some groceries. I'm going to go buy some seafood because I'm on a pescatarian diet right now. My nutritionist coach has me on a pescatarian diet for a while, and but that's it's helping with everything.
Yes,
So
it is. It is. And actually, y'all, we are going to get Crystal to come back and see us real soon, as she gets closer, maybe once in the next couple of quarters of her training months, kind of keep us informed on how she's doing with her training because she's Victor's star client right now, and she's just an incredible woman. Y'all have
yes.
all met her. So we're going to say
And she's my
goodbye today.
nutritionist coach too. So let me
Oh, yeah,
clarify
she's a
that.
nutritionist coach too. And actually, now I have the opportunity to try to get on some of those webinars. I don't like to cook, but she could convince me to at least fix a couple of meals a week, maybe once a month. But anyway, that being said, let's go ahead and put anything in the notes that you do have questions for. Get the book, it's 99 cents. If you get a chance to go through it sometime in the next week or two, please send us some questions or comments on the book. If there's anything that we can address in a future podcast that you have some really definite interest in learning a little bit more about, please let us know. Victor's going to put all that information in the notes for us. And my friend, we've got a week and a half before those Seahawks take on the Patriots. So I think we'll be back at least one day next week with our listeners, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And we'll keep y'all posted. I'm just gonna wear a Saints shirt that day. I'm just gonna tell you. But anyway,
Okay.
my friend, I enjoyed this so much. I want you to have a wonderful afternoon. Do really, really well this week in your training. I'll focus on mine, and maybe we'll recap a little bit next week when we get a chance to visit with all of our friends and viewers here next Tuesday,
Absolutely.
maybe.
Thank you,
All right.
Dale. Thank you to our listeners.
Thank y'all. Have a wonderful week, everybody. We'll see you soon.
See you.